Wait, you got to tell one of the reasons we've been talking about this forever, your Entourage pitch, which I don't think you've ever told on a podcast. It's one of the most important stories ever.
I haven't told it anywhere really publicly.
Okay, so here we go. This is Cord's Entourage story. Take the floor.
So the in this age of reboots, I was like, we're rebooting all this stuff that doesn't necessarily need to be rebooted. It's sort of like you're only rebooting it. Like, I think that part of my journalism brain, right, is sort of that I carry with me into film and television is like, why now? Like, why should this story be told now? Why in 2023, out of the millions of stories that you could be telling, why should this one exist in the present day? And I think that a lot of these reboots, the frustrating thing about them is that there's no answer to that question. The only answer to that question is like, well, this was popular in the past, and now we're trying to sort of like squeeze every dollar out of this like piece of IP that we can. But so Entourage, I was like, there's a reason for this to exist, right? The reason for this to exist in the present day is because it's really funny to look at that show in the context of like how much the world has changed versus when it was on the air, right? Like how radically different sort of Hollywood is and the world and culture is. And so I have this pitch for Entourage where it starts with Ari walking into his new agency, right, which he's founded with Lloyd, his old assistant. And so Ari and Lloyd have founded like this massive new agency in Hollywood, and Ari comes in and like swaggers in one day, like the way that Ari swaggers, and Lloyd comes up to him and he's like, look, I got something to tell you. And he's like, no, I don't, he's typically dismissive of Lloyd and says something racist and homophobic to Lloyd. And like, he's like, I can't talk now. I got a call with Aaron Sorkin at 9 a.m. So like, I'm sorry, I can't deal with it right now. And Lloyd's like, I really have something new important to tell you. And he's like, it's gotta wait. And just then, like, Ari's assistant goes, Ari, phone call. And he's like, there he is right now. And he swaggers into his office and he picks up the phone. He goes, hey, Aaron, what's going on, brother? And the voice on the other end of the phone goes, oh, this isn't Aaron. This is Ronan Farrow. I'm calling from the New Yorker. I've got some questions for you. And Ari goes, what? And he's like, yeah, I've got some questions for you about your career and some things that people have said. And so it starts, and Ari Gold is getting Me Too, right? Like he's like,
is it Ronan Farrow playing himself, or is it an actor
it's Ronan? No, it's Ronan Farrow playing himself.
Great.
And he essentially starts asking Ari about all these things that we've seen Ari actually do. He's like, is this true? This is what we find out Lloyd was trying to tell Ari. He's like, is it true that you said this to your assistant? Is it true that you said this to your assistant? Is it true that like you said this about Carmen Electra? Is it true that you said like, it just all of the stuff that we've seen happen in the show is coming to sort of like haunt Ari. And so Ari's getting Me Too'd. That's his story. E is now sort of like no longer really representing actors. He's representing like TikTok influencers. So he's representing a bunch of like teenage boys who like beat the shit out of him when he goes to their like hype houses and stuff, and they're like constantly playing pranks on him and like they treat him like shit. But he's like got to deal with it because that's where all the money is now. And then Drama is no longer an actor. Drama has a Trump podcast, like a super like MAGA podcast. And he's like, dude, I'm making way more money doing this than I ever was as an actor. And he's like selling shitty supplements on his website. And he's just like full conservative MAGA podcast. Turtle is dead of a fentanyl overdose, but his ghost appears in every episode. Like every episode, they talk to Turtle's ghost, so he's still with the boys. But he there's a shrine to him, and there's a shrine to him in Drama's podcast studio, and he's got like face tattoos and like by now, and he's like, and his ghost comes back every episode, like Obi-Wan or something, and then Vinny is trying to play Bernie Getz in this Ava DuVernay Bernie Getz limited series that's happening on Netflix. And so he's like finally going to have a serious role. And so Ava comes up to him and she's like, listen, Vinny, I really like you for the part, but man, like I can't, like this Ari stuff is tainting everybody. So like if you keep Ari as your agent, like I can't have you on the show if you're still with Ari. So sort of it's like it's like a 3 to 4 episode limited series, like limited reboot, where we just sort of see these guys, and the story that I have built is like, it becomes Johnny Drama's story is that like his supplements like start making people go blind, and he's got to it's like
because the jerk
because he started getting them from some shitty factory somewhere, and like there was no quality control, and so these boner pills that he's selling like make people go blind, and it's like all of a sudden he's got to figure out to deal with that. But the final storyline is whether or not Vinny's going to fire Ari, and like he's got to I'll just tell you, because this is never going to see the light of day. I've already tried to pitch this to people, and they have zero interest in even talking about it. I'll say that the powers that be have zero interest in rebooting Entourage, which to me was surprising. I thought it would be very funny, but the last shot is Vinny calling
Ari.
Calling Ari to tell him that he's firing him, and he's like I'm sorry, like Ari, he's his last client, like everybody else has jumped ship, and he's like, Vinny, we've been through so much together, like please, and Vinny's like, I'm sorry, man, like I can't do it. And so he's like it's over, and Vinny hangs up, and so Ari's like standing there in his like super big office on Wilshire, and he gets furious, and he throws his chair through the window of his office, and he's just like standing there, like letting the breeze hit him, and he's like standing there thinking, and he's like so frustrated and is red-faced, and his wife has left him now, and like his empire's crumbling, and like as the breeze is hitting his face, you just see him he just runs and leaps out does a swan dive out of the window, and just lands on his back in the middle of Wilshire Boulevard. And just like, you sort of like, I have this shot, like as the blood starts puddling around him, like this camera like does a slow pull up, and it just goes, oh yeah, oh yeah, as we're like looking at Ari's bloody body in the middle of Wilshire. Oh yeah, and then that's the credits, and that's the end. It would be so good. It would be so good. It would be so funny and so good, and like it is a reboot that deserves to exist, because I think that there's a reason, and like it would be really funny. And like, it would be just all about how much this has changed, like this show in a different context. Like, what does it look like? And yeah, it's going nowhere. I've tried to get in the room at HBO. They won't listen, but I'm happy to say it here. I'm really happy you've given me a platform to talk about this, because it is one of my favorite ideas that I've come up with. I think it would be great.
I think it's the best idea I've heard in the last like 3 or 4 years. Especially the ending is the best part. And if you do it as a limited edition series, each episode could end with, every Entourage episode ended where they were just kind of looking out into LA. Or looking out off a cliff, or looking out onto whatever. So you could have the 3 of them looking out, but then Turtle's ghost is kind of levitating next to them, also looking out.
Yeah, and Turtle's ghost is like on the horizon, like Mufasa in Lion King. Like he's just like, yeah, boys, what's up?
Because you have the end of the second to last episode, you have Vince. They say you have to fire Ari, and he's looking out by himself, right? He's looking out down the hills. Turtle's ghost, he's just lingering in a smoky
hitting a bong. Turtle's ghost is smoking a bong.
But everybody still, like, we use all the actors, right, for this?
Oh, 100%.
Like, Jerry Ferrara is playing Turtle's ghost.
100%. No, this is like, we get the band back together. Like, that is
I'm not giving up on this. Maybe this being on the podcast will help get some momentum. Maybe you've got
a wide reach. You've got a wide reach. If the fans out there love it, let's bring it back. I would love to. No idea makes me laugh harder.